Hello everyone. As I've said before, I'll be talking about Scarlet Witch Coco for the V series card. So, first of all, it has a on ride. If you wrote it on a grade 2, you draw a card. At first, I thought it was kind of like a downgrade from her original, but then I thought about it. You also get a protect, I don't know what's it called, a protect card basically. So in a way, it's like a secure perfect guard with the draw card for free. While her original needed like 1 soul actually, yeah, and you need a Carablast 2 for it. So in a way, it's quite an upgrade. So yeah. Also, if you use the grade 2 PP Topaz Witch PP, you can draw another card, which means you get like 3 cards. And the grade 1 lets you call her from the soul when you ride a grade 3 witch. All in all, it's a very, very amazing deck from what I've tried. It does face quite a few problems, as usual with oracles. First of all, Coco doesn't really gain too much power, but her abilities to let you draw cards are very, very good. And like her previous original, she likes to have you ride multiple times, so that really gave me, what's it called, like nostalgia on how the deck works. But there is quite some different things, I guess. Yeah. So the secondary grade 3 Wisteria Witch Zozo is kind of like your Victorious Deer for the deck. It gives plus 5k for each protect in your hand, basically, to the front row. Yes. 3 of your front row units gets plus 5,000 power for each protect card revealed. And when its attack hits, you can Carablast, hits a Vanguard, you can Carablast 1 to draw a card. And that second ability works even on a rear guard, which is very, very good. So, basically, optimally, you want to ride Coco first. Coco, overall, is basically a setup card, and the second ability for Coco, draw 2 cards, and discard any. Oh, alright, that's fine. Yeah, draw 2 cards and discard any number of witch from your hand. From my testing, normally you wouldn't really want to discard any witch except grade 3s, maybe at some times. Even then, most of the time you want to keep it to ride more, a few times more. So it's very situational for the gaining additional imaginary, it's called imaginary gifts. Yeah. So yeah, it's quite conditional. And yeah. However, if you do ride Zozo first, you gain power, I guess. Just straight up gain power, and then you have a pressure on hit card. The problem I have now is that because of how I built my deck from my testings, Counterblast is quite an expensive resource. I use cards like Rectangle Magus. I use cards like Tetra Magus. Yes. So I'll just tell you what I'm using for my great ones. I'm using 4 Circle Magus. That's basically quite standard from what I've seen. What she does is that she lets you draw another card when you ride a grade 2 on it, basically. So you get to draw a card every turn, in a way. If you ride it from your starter to circle to PP to grade 3, which is quite amazing. So Circle Magus takes a Karen Blast. And then I have 4 Tetra Magus as well. Tetra Magus, first I thought, it's not like that good to put a card from your hand back to the deck, and it costs a Kara Blast. But from my testing, it's really, really good because it's a critical trigger. And even if you don't want to put it back, you can just keep it. Or if you don't have a critical trigger, you can basically just draw a card for a Kara Blast outside of the Vanguard skill. So it's very good. I also play 4 Lolos. Lolo is a very fun card from what I've experienced. It has an on hit. If it hits, Kara Blast 1 as well. More Kara Blast. Draw a card, but you have to put it back to the soul. But when you ride a grade 3 witch, you can Soul Blast 1 to call her out. So in a way, it's a protect against like retire skills. In a way, if you manage to get her back to the soul. Obviously, the optimum ride is still Circle Magus, and if you get to call like a Lolo behind her, you can get Lolo into the soul, and you can get her back out. You can get her back out later. And if you do get her back into the soul, it's quite difficult because there's really not that many cards that lets you gain more soul, because everything you need like takes a soul blast. So it could be difficult, but the remaining 2, I'm playing 14 grade 1s. I played 2 Wheel Crane. Wheel Crane is very, very good, especially in witches, I think. I'm not too sure about the other decks. I've not tested Magus yet, but Magus seems to be... I'm not sure, to be honest. Yeah, let's see, Hexagonal Magus. When Road, I guess, when plays Kara Blast 1, I guess you get to check. All in all, Magus is not too interesting for me. I wanted to try it, but I didn't get to. But the Pentagonal Magus is it gives additional drives. Not good, to be honest, because I would rather have a restand, because if it's just additional drives, you perfect guard it. That's it, you know. So I don't like that. Personal opinion. But the older cards, CEO, obviously you get the once per turn skill, so CEO is still a very good Vanguard choice. But so yeah, now I'll move on to my grade 2s. Alright, I was talking about Crane, Wheel Crane. Wheel Crane is just power, you know. Oracles could always use more power, so I thought it's a good addition. And if you just put it behind Vanguard and you have Zozo as your Vanguard, if your Vanguard hits the Vanguard, you can Kara Blast with your Karambla skill, and use Wheel Crane through that. So it's quite scary from the person I've tested my deck against. So next, I have grade 2, 4 Promise Daughter, 4 PP, and 3 Rectangle Magus. So if you can see here, I'm using even more Soul Blast. Why? Because actually from my testing, Zozo doesn't Soul Blast, so I was actually thinking about using Victorious Deer, but it's just not practical from my testing, because you basically have to ride Zozo and another Zozo and have another grade 3 like Coco in the soul as well. So you have to ride I think 4 to 5 times maybe. I don't know. Minimum is 3 obviously, but yeah, that's just what I've tested from. So why I'm playing like the Rectangle Magus and the Tetra Magus is because of one of the reason is Wheel Crane. The other reason is obviously to draw other than the Vanguard skill. Being able to draw outside the Vanguard skill is what Oracle Think Tank before Standard has been doing. I know they can do on Standard too before this new set, but those normally require you to discard a card in a way, and that's like a ±0 from that, which is not the best. So the addition of Tetra Magus and like Rectangle Magus is actually very, very good. So like I said, the deck uses a lot of Carablast, but it's like, I think you do like 1 or 2 Carablast per turn. That's still quite a lot. Yeah, now that I've thought about it, but from my testing, it's okay. It's not that bad. But there is like Gemini, but I don't think it's worth sacrificing a booster for a unflip, because normally you want to keep your boosters most of the time. So yeah. I was testing with cards like Soto Orihime and what other grade 2s did I use? Yeah, I think I just, alright, Tort, Battle Sister Tort. Tort was, it depends on your matchup. It's very good on some matchups, and it's very bad for some matchups because it's not consistent enough from my, I think it's my playstyle maybe, but I couldn't consistently keep a 10 card hand for the +10 power, +1 critical. Obviously that is very powerful if you can keep it like every turn, but I couldn't do it, so it's not consistent enough. So yeah, that's the deck that I've made and tested. Also tested with Fumino. Fumino is actually a very, very good card, I think. From my testing, I was playing her instead of Tetra Magus before, or like Circle Magus. But yeah, the cost of Soul Blast 1 and not being able to straight up add it to your hand is quite a big detriment, so it depends. I still think it's very good because it basically secures grade 3 for when you want to ride to grade 3, and it kind of helps if you have your secondary grade tree and you want your main grade tree. She helps a lot on that. So yeah, and even if that's not the case, decks that run Victorious Deer, and you want to have like a finisher for the next turn or the turn, like this turn. If you play like Amaterasu decks and stuff, does that work? I think Victorious Deer skill works on the rear guard too, right? Yes. So if you have 2 great trees soul, obviously, and if you don't have Victorious Deer in your hand, you can basically use Fumino and have a chance to getting your great tree. And since CEO Amaterasu lets you draw a card, you can just draw it out from there. So yeah. And why CEO is still good is because of her check the top card, and if it's not a trigger, you can I guess play Tetramagus and put a trigger on top, and that is quite strong actually because of all these new drawing outside of your great tree skills. So yeah, that is all for now. I'll be testing Magus as soon as possible, but that was from my testing for standard witches. Witches are very flexible from my experience, and I like playing Scarlet Witch Coco. She's my favorite unit. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.